friends, I hope you have a wonderful day. And this time I'm going to be reacting to the absolute insanity of Group B rally. Um, I saw some video about Group B, but it was really long time ago. But every time when I saw some videos of that time, it scared me. Just even because of the viewers, the people. Oh, so yeah, let's just check this one out.
When auto racing first began in the 1890s, it was extremely simple. Get a bunch of cars and drivers together and have them race from one town to another. First one there wins. In a time before purpose-built racetracks or electronic timing and scoring existed, this was the easiest way to put on a race and have an undisputed winner. However, these events were held on public roads, and thus you couldn't sell tickets and anyone could just waltz up and watch a race for free, or at least a segment of it. People wanted to watch the entire race and were willing to pay to make that happen, so around the turn of the 20th century, auto racing migrated onto horse racing tracks, as there were already hundreds of them dotted across Europe and North America. Fans could watch the entire race, get food and drinks, and even bet on the outcome. And the best part was, all the infrastructure was already built. In the span of less than 10 years, motorsports went from almost unrecognizable to looking exactly like a modern racing
Icon the cars, I love how they look.
event today. But no matter how much the sport of auto racing changes or how much different it looks as the decades drag on, some people are always going to want to do things the old way. Even to this day, there are still racing divisions that host races on those same horse tracks from the 1900s. Some people who insist on racing in the old styles are just in it for the nostalgia. Others are purists and say that's the only real form of racing. But most see it as an old art form that deserves to be preserved and continued at all costs. Thus, some drivers still held on to the point-to-point style of racing that had started it all. In 1911, the Rally of Monte Carlo was held in Monaco, and the name stuck. That style of racing forever thereafter was known as rally racing. Eventually, instead of one-day point-to-point races, the long rallies were broken up into segments run across multiple days. That way fans could watch more racing and get more bang for their buck. After World War II, motor racing saw an insane boom in popularity all over the world. By 1950, Formula One had begun competition and several rally series had popped up. But in 1973, the FIA, the sanctioning body for F1, threw their hat into the rally ring and created the World Rally Championship, or WRC. Immediately they saw success as they gained the rights to the Rally of Monte Carlo, and many other major rally races all over Europe, be it in the paved streets of Monaco, the snows of Finland, or the mud of Sicily. The WRC did it all and had one of the most challenging schedules on the planet. Soon, rally racing was becoming more popular than Formula One, because unlike in that series, all the cars in the WRC were stock cars anybody could buy straight from the dealer's lot. The WRC had a rule that in order to race a car in their series, a manufacturer had to produce at least 5,000 units for commercial and private sales. This rule made the Lancia Stratos one of the most recognizable race cars ever made, and it won the WRC's championship top division 3 years in a row, from 1974 through 1976. Even in America and other places where the WRC didn't race yet, people knew about the Stratos. Kids had posters of it on their walls. Those lines are unmistakable. Just look at that thing. However, by the time the early 80s rolled around, there was a problem with the WRC. The numbers of divisions or groups they ran were too specialized and too restrictive for the automakers to justify manufacturing 5,000 units necessary to meet the WRC's regulations. Also, the 6 groups they had hamstrung the teams with tons of rules in the way. So in 1982, the head of the FIA, Jean Balestre, made a radical move. He condensed down the number of groups from 6 to 3. 2 stock divisions would remain, but the third was something entirely new. Usually when a sanctioning body is trying to win over teams and factories, they introduce new rules to cap costs and keep them happy. But this time the FIA would take away the rules and say anything goes. So long as the car has 4 wheels and the engine breathes air, you can run it. For the 1982 season, the FIA and the WRC effectively threw the rulebook out of the window and said, let her rip.
Yeah. Oof. Yeah.
Group B, as it came to be known, was pretty much the Wild West of auto racing, only really matched by the insane northeastern supermodified scene back in the United States. Instead of 5,000 units needing to be produced, it was lowered down to 200, and if you change something...
That fault looked weird, really weird. What? I would never even imagine that you could open the back side like that. What?
on your car from one year to the next, you only needed to make 20 more. A laughably low limit. There were no restrictions on horsepower, turbo and superchargers were given the go-ahead, and you could run any engine you wanted. And even the dimensions of the cars were not mandated, meaning that you could watch a rear-engine Porsche 959 compete directly against a front-engine Soviet-built Lada. Yeah, the commie car. Group B was completely insane, and I love it. And the manufacturers put their money where their mouth was by putting forth some of the most monstrous cars to ever grace a race course. They started throwing money at their Group B programs and let their engineers go hog wild. Lancia were here to take their crown back yet again with their Rally 03.
Oh, I guess it's really normal that it's opening like that. So, why? I don't know nothing about rally cars. So.
7, the spiritual successor to the Stratos. It had a 2-liter rear-mounted 4-cylinder engine that produced 265 horsepower. That doesn't sound like much, but with one of the few rules being a 960 kilogram minimum vehicle weight, about 2,100 pounds, that meant the 037 could absolutely fly through the streets. Lancia would claim the manufacturer's title in 1983, and they had yet another classic car to their name. The 037 in the Martini colors would become as iconic as any race car could ever hope to be. But their main rival in the 1980s was unquestionably Audi and their Quattro series of cars. The fact that the word Quattro rung a bell for you tells you how influential this series was in its heyday. Audi had won the title in 1982 with a nifty idea: 4-wheel drive. The car was a front-engine design and looked fairly normal, but it had a turbocharged inline 5-cylinder motor, and the 4-wheel drive meant that all 4 wheels could put down the 340 horsepower it produced. It was significantly over the minimum weight, being just a touch under 2,500 pounds, but that much power combined with a way to actually get it on the ground effectively meant that Lancia had serious competition. 4-wheel drive for rally was largely seen as a novelty before Group B, as it was just too unreliable and broke easily. But Audi had apparently found the secret sauce and changed the game forever. They also started an arms race by constantly updating the Quattro. They started off with the Quattro A1 in 1983, but next they debuted the Sport Quattro S1. This was a big step up in 2 ways. First, it produced 100 more horsepower than the A1, despite using basically the same engine layout. And second, it really delved deep into the ever-evolving world of aerodynamics. Aero had been something that race teams all over the world had been fiddling with since the 1950s, but cars at the time simply did not go fast enough to make it worth spending that kind of money on R&D. But Group B pushed the envelope so much in the power department that aero was now a real concern, and the cars began looking less like street cars and more like rocket ships. Peugeot was also in the thick of it with their offering, the 205 T16. It had an inline-4 turbocharged engine that made in excess of 500 horsepower, and had aero scoops jutting out of every corner of the car. And despite it having that big front engine compartment, that's not actually where the engine is. It's in the middle for better weight distribution, because this is Group B and you can just do that sort of thing. It won the manufacturer's title in 1985 and 1986 with Timo Salonen at the helm. Now's where we get to talk about the absolute mad lads and lasses that drove these things. Because they were every bit as weird as their cars. Timo Salonen was a Finnish driver who, despite his appearance making him look like a tax accountant, was the best driver in Group B's history, winning more events than anyone else. He was a laid-back man who never lost his cool and insisted on driving the car with just one hand and the other one being permanently left on the shifter. Stig Blomqvist took up driving duties for Audi and tamed their Quattro series, being instrumental to their title in 1984. Walter Roll won the title for Lancia in 1983, and of course we have to mention the Queen of the Hill, Michèle Mouton. She is arguably the greatest female race car driver that has ever lived. She set the Pikes Peak hill climb record in 1985, won the 24 Hours of Le Mans, and to this day she is the only woman to have ever won a WRC event. And there you have it, a recipe for success. The fastest cars ever built for rally racing mixed with the best drivers in the world. The FIA wanted to give the WRC a shot in the arm, and they had done it. By 1984, the WRC was more popular than Formula One, and fans flocked to these events in the hundreds of thousands. Sometimes as many as 400,000 people would buy tickets to see these cars and drivers in action. There were very few, if any, crowd control measures in place for Group B events, and those 400,000 people gotta go somewhere. So people would crowd the racing lines and even stand on the track itself just waiting to get the perfect vantage point to see these race cars do their thing. Some of these videos are just jaw-dropping to watch. It's like the automotive equivalent of the running of the bulls. I don't even know how the driver...
If you have seen my rally videos when sometimes it's showing these cuts, I can't stand it. I'm scared about everyone and everything. It's crazy. I wouldn't. I wouldn't go on the road, but okay. It's crazy.
Or their co-drivers managed to see the road ahead of them. Mechanics and crew reported that after a segment had been completed, they would find bits of clothing and hair stuck in the grille and wings of their cars, body panels splattered with blood, and even fingers wedged into the air ducts.
I remember someone did comment this somewhere a while back. How? You can lose your finger. I can't. It's scary and disturbing and bit ew. Oh my god.
Group B was absolute mania. The coolest race cars, the best drivers, the most rabid fans on earth.
Get off the road! I can't.
Everything had worked out for the WRC and the FIA beyond their wildest imaginations. What could possibly go wrong?
Uh-huh.
By 1985, these cars were so fast and there were so few rules in place for safety that even the drivers were starting to voice concerns. Another rule in Group B, or really lack thereof, was that cars could be made of any material, including aluminum. Those Audis and Lancias that weighed scarcely more than a metric ton were able to do so because of their aluminum frames and roll cages. And the thing about aluminum, it likes to bend. If you've ever been on a commercial flight and got a window seat above the wings, you know how much aluminum can flex during flight. That's a good thing for a plane, but not so much for a car. Rescue workers were also not numerous enough to do anything in case a car went off the track. It could take half an hour for them to show up on the scene, and their communications were also horrendously lacking. Oftentimes, the only way they found out that a driver had wrecked was when another driver drove past, finished their segment, got out of the car, and reported the smoke they had seen to an official. By the time medics and firefighters arrived, it was often far too late. Not to mention the hundreds of thousands of spectators crowding the roads made it hard to get to the scene even if their communication was better. On May 2nd, 1985, at the Corsica Rally, a Lancia 037, piloted by Attilo Bottega, went off and slammed into a tree. His co-driver was okay, but when medics arrived 20 minutes later, they found the co-driver Mauricio limping out of the woods and Bottega dead still inside of the car. The drivers petitioned the FIA to do something, but they determined that at the speed the car was going, nothing would have prevented Attilo's death. It was more or less hand-waved away as a freak.
I can't imagine the feeling that you survived, but the other guy didn't. Oh my god.
Accident. Racing is inherently dangerous, that's true, but the FIA's investigation left drivers with little peace of mind. But later in the year during the Argentinian rally, Ari Vatanen crashed in a scary rollover. He broke both legs and a few ribs, one of which punctured his lung. He and his co-driver survived, but they both vowed to never race in Group B again. The cars were becoming so fast with so much power that one driver said the cars moved faster than he could react. It was more or less driving on instinct, right on the razor's edge of what was humanly possible. So going into 1986, the FIA finally budged and outlawed aluminum roll cages and set limits on aero devices like wings and spoilers, in hopes of slowing the cars down. But everything else remained the same, no limits on power and no crowd control measures. Because coming in 1987 was the new Group S division, Group B's replacement. Here there would be virtually no rules. Manufacturers only needed to make 10 road cars to reach the production limit, and the automakers were already developing their new round of supercars. In March 1986, the Portugal Rally was held, and the country had already become a hotbed for gearheads of all stripes, and now Group B would get their shot at glory in the country. People flooded the streets, and the first incident of the rally occurred when a cameraman was basically pushed into the line of fire, and Timo Salonen damn near ripped the man's hand off with his car and completely destroyed the $3,000 camera. The next accident would not be so lax. Joaquim Santos, a native Portuguese driver, started off in his Ford RS200. Wanting to see the hometown guy rip through the streets, people crowded more and more onto the course. At one point, a spectator jumped out onto the track and Santos swerved to miss him. He then overcorrected and the car slid broadside into a group of people. His co-driver Miguel Oliveira said that in Group B the cars were so fast that he just had to look at his notes and feel the track turn for turn. But in this instance, he suddenly felt thuds and bumps as the car careened into the crowd. 32 people were injured and 3 people died, including a mother and her 11-year-old son. In a disgusting move, the FIA continued the race and did not tell the other drivers what had happened. When the drivers completed the segment and got told what happened, they banded together and vowed to go on strike to stop the competition. But the FIA kept things going, and Jean Balestre said he would punish any driver or manufacturer that walked out. At the Corsica Rally just 2 months later in May...
What the F? Seriously, what the F? How can you even... I'm speechless, actually.
Henry Tovinen and his co-driver Sergio Cresto were putting on the race of their lives, winning stages left and right. But on the second day of competition, their Lancia went off at a point where there was no guardrail, and it flew off of a steep hill. The fuel tank immediately ruptured, and a ball of fire erupted from the crash site. Drivers completing the segment reported to officials that they'd seen black smoke in one of the turns, and by the time rescue personnel got to Henry and Sergio, there was nothing left of the wreck except a charred frame. Now in action was borderline criminal. And after international pressure from drivers, manufacturers, and governments, Group B was immediately banned from competition and never got to see the light of day again. And its successor, Group S, was scrapped entirely. After
God.
Group B's disbanding, Group A, the more strictly stock division, picked up the banner and marched forward. But this time with the restrictions and safeguards the drivers of the 80s had wanted. Now there were crowd limits, they had to be kept further back in most areas, and rescue personnel were more numerous with helicopters in the air and radio communications opened up between them. Now if a driver went off, their officials would know about it immediately and be able to send help within a few minutes rather than half an hour. Even still, rally racing remained popular all over the world. The Subaru Impreza WRX and the Mitsubishi Lancer Evo became classic cars, and their computerized traction control systems and driver assist are commonplace on road cars today of all makes and models. The features you take for granted in your personal car and the safety precautions in place at every racetrack today were earned out there on the ice, snow, gravel, and dirt stretching from Portugal to Corsica, from Finland to Argentina. People had to pay a high price for those things. And if there's any silver lining to Group B and rally racing as a whole, it was that they have saved countless lives through these technological advancements. The WRC is still competing today, and the envelope is still being pushed, but with the proper safety measures in place to make sure we don't repeat the same mistakes. And even with all the new rules set up, limiting horsepower and boost, and making the cars sturdier with steel, if you watch a modern WRC event, you can see that the true spirit of Group B never completely went away.
Even fireworks.
Today the cars have a lot less horsepower, but they're actually faster than their Group B brothers if you can believe it. And with modern seats and belts, they're safer than ever. There's never been a better time to be a rally fan with cameras broadcasting every angle of every stage. And yes, you can still get uncomfortably close to the action if that's your thing. For any of my European fans watching this, y'all got it pretty good over there. Don't forget that. And
Latvia's flag. Yeah, in Latvia we have Martin, I guess, yeah, Martin Šesks. I did watch him, like, not this summer, but last summer. I'm kind of proud of him. Maybe I should check something more of him, but yeah.
Anyway, I'm Slapshoes. Thanks for watching, and until next time, y'all take it easy.
Oh my god, yeah. Oh. I forgot that I was gonna cry. Now I'm laughing, but I just can't imagine that there was such a big crash and there was so many people got injured, 30 something. It's so many. And how can you dare not to even tell other drivers and even say that you will kick them out if they will not drive? What? Actually, they needed to start to think of something when the drivers said it's too damn crazy. But oh my god, yeah. That was a really crazy time. I just can't. The 30 minutes. Oh my god, to get to them if they did crash. Oh my. I don't know what to say else. So yeah, I hope that you did enjoy this video, and if you did, please consider to leave a like and subscribe, and yeah, if you have some under suggestions, please leave them in my Discord server. And yeah, hopefully I'm gonna see you next time. Take care. Be careful. Bye.